Tochi.
Morning, Nathan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Starting them off the morning strong.
You're winding up.
Winding up.
And so, in this figure, all this stuff is coming from calculations about the total number of hours of clinic. So, if you look at the light blue columns, one follow-up per block, and then the rest of the time will just be protected, like for consultation, for you might be shadowing Sarah, or maybe spend some time with one of the oncologists. So most of the if you have 10 hours of patient time in a week, that means you have 18 hours that's protected just for onboarding. Is expected to be doing clinic work, but you won't be scheduled for that until 72 hours before the visit, and you'll have some control over that.
Okay. So this is like my preliminary kind of like building of like how I kind of like operationalize my notes. And I do a lot of like kind of smart phrases and like smart lists, so it's like kind of easy to get through. So this is kind of like the initial template note, and I have like a lot of these, like if you press the F2 to kind of click through for like the 3 ellipses here.
Yeah.
So I'm like kind of just clicking through all of them.
Try to schedule another meeting just so we can maybe get in the habit of doing that. I guess there's only like another month before you're done.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, but I'll send you notes so we can get another time to meet. Okay, take care.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome back to another day in my life. What is going on, you guys? My name is Tochi, and today I am having a little bit of a different day. It's been pretty productive this morning. I was able to do my workout. I've been doing calisthenics for the last couple of weeks. It's been hard. It's been very hard, but it's been a nice challenge to have for myself, kind of switching from weightlifting with dumbbells, weights, and all that good stuff. But this morning I had a meeting with one of my future bosses for my position I'm going to be starting in a few months. And we kind of, spent some time to kind of talk about how the actual beginning of the job is going to be. I'm going to have a nice little ramp up period, and I'm going to be fully ingrained into the job by around like March, April, May time. And they do that because they understand that new fellows, new trainees coming into an attending position, there's a lot to actually learn about not only where you're working, but how things work operationally. And when you're a fellow and when you're a resident, you don't really understand all that because you're kind of shielded by all of that going to your attending. But now that I'm going to be in that attending role, I have to understand those things as well. So we spent some time talking about how things are going to work operationally, how things are going to look for me actually starting the job. And I am having a split of about, I think 30 to 40% is going to be inpatient, and then the rest of the time is going to be outpatient at the cancer center as well as with the hospice agency, which is going to be 10% on its own. But I wanted to speak with him specifically because a majority of my time is going to be in the outpatient setting. So I wanted to kind of understand how things work, how the flow looks like. And he actually wanted to kind of go through with me what my actual clinic panel will look like. And he asked me a few weeks ago some kind of potentials of how I would want things to go. I have 7 half days of clinic per week out of the 10 half days during that time. And I want to not only kind of originally for me, I wanted to kind of front load my schedule at the beginning of the week because I tend to start my weeks pretty strong with a lot of inertia and energy from the weekend. But we have some things that are changing with our team as well as the location that we're going to be having our clinic. So I'm going to have to maybe switch some things up a little bit. That's still to be determined. And then the last thing that we talked about was actually going over our note documentation. During my fellowship year, I did a lot of editing and a lot of things to kind of operationalize myself to actually make things max efficient, because a lot of the things that I've been told as a resident, as a fellow, is that the biggest thing that leads to physician burnout is documentation and notes. And I wanted to do what I could do during my early trainee years to kind of see how can I make this note template kind of efficient. That way I'm not like spending so much time, extra time after the fact, after I see that patient. So I really wanted to make sure that, and we kind of talked about in the meeting, that three things should be kind of operationalized. I'm saying that word a lot today. Three things should be really, really emphasized for my note templates. The first thing is that I want to see if I can have things automatically pulled into the note to kind of reduce that burden of me having to click through the EMR to actually find something to kind of put into the note, copy and paste, or so on and so forth. And then the second thing is that I want to make things as clickable as possible. And one of the things that I love about Epic, and it's the reason why I really do not like CPRS, which is one of the EMR systems at the VA, is that you can do a lot of smart phrases, a lot of smart lists, and a lot of things to kind of make things very, very efficient. So I spent some time creating smart lists to kind of make things clickable, or it just pulls it in for you. And then the last thing is that we really want to make sure that the note is not just blotted up and just really, really blown up, because the point of our notes for documentations as physicians is that we really want to make sure the note is understandable and able to get through quickly. So I really wanted to do things in that nature, kind of make the notes efficient, but also encapsulates the entire picture of the patient. And palliative care is really person focused, not patient focused. And I really want to make sure we understand the patient as a whole person, because they have lives and everything before that. So that is the biggest thing that we talked about this morning. The rest of the day, I really have to go to the grocery store, and I've been kind of neglecting going to the grocery store for so long because I just went to Costco just last month, and I do a really bad job with just keeping up with fresh produce. And, I never really realized that, it only really lasts a week, and sometimes I try to stretch it, but that's not really a good idea. So I'm going to be going to the store, pick up a bunch of stuff. And then after that, around noon, we're going to be having didactics. Usually we start around 12 to 1, and it looks like the 3 to 4 lectures that we're going to be doing today, we're going to talk about generalized inpatient care for hospice and then end-of-life symptom management. And then we're also going to be talking about psychosocial aspects of palliative care. And then the last thing we're going to be talking about is pain management in patients with opioid use disorder. So it's going to be a full day from 1 to 5 p.m. we'll be in lectures. And then after that, I'll be with my co-fellows. Because we don't see each other that much throughout the year, we try to schedule a dinner after every single first and third Wednesday of the month whenever we all see each other, because we're all at 4 to 5 different hospitals and we don't get to see each other. We never really rotate at the same hospital at once. So I'm looking forward to today.
Can I do the 2 chickens and rice? I'll get the veggies too.
So we have about 30 minutes before lectures start today, and I wanted to kind of give you guys my thoughts on one of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, which is 4 levels of care for hospice. There's 4 different ones, and today we're going to be having a hospice medical director. Actually, I don't know if she's a medical director or just one of the hospice doctors there, but regardless, she's going to be talking about a very specialized form of hospice. And before we kind of get into that, I wanted to explain to you guys the 4 different levels of hospice and how we see it as a hospice and palliative care physicians. And it'll give you guys a little bit of a frame if you have a family member that's in hospice, or if you guys are trainees, residents, doctors that are thinking about how does hospice work. So like I said, there's 4 different levels of hospice. They're known as routine care, respite care, GIP, also known as generalized inpatient care, which is what I'm going to be talking about with the doctor today, as well as continuous care. Now, the 4 different levels of hospice all have different ways of doing things. The most utilized form of it is routine care, which is usually done at a person's home or at a nursing home. And basically what happens with the routine care is that it's not caregiving, for starters. You don't have just someone from the hospice just sitting in your home 24/7. We oftentimes send out nurses, social workers, and doctors to do checkups on the patients at least weekly to bi-weekly. And what we're doing is that we're assessing the patient, making sure that they're comfortable. And with hospice, if you guys watched the previous videos on my channel, hospice is intended to allow someone to naturally die when we think that they have 6 months or less to live. So we're mostly focusing treatment on comfort. So usually what we do with routine care is that we're checking in on them, and once they're getting closer and closer to death, we do often more frequent checks, and we just try to do everything we can with a comfort kit that has a lot of different medications in it, such as lorazepam, pain medications, seizure medications, to try to help that person naturally pass peacefully in their home. Now, that's the first level of hospice. The second level of hospice is something known as respite care. Now, with someone that is in hospice and we think that they have 6 months or less to live, as they get closer and closer to dying, they require a lot more support by family members, especially if they're in the home. And the reason why is because they get more sleepy, they're not eating as much, you have to turn them a lot so they don't get bed sores on their back. A lot of times they have a lot of symptoms that they need managed as well by the family. And usually what we say is that with the amount of care that family is providing at home, it can be very stressful on the family. And with hospice, we're not only focusing on the patient, we're focusing on the patient and their entire family unit. And that comes in very important later on when it comes to bereavement services. But the family is affected by this patient's illness, and we know that they're going to feel immense emotions. It's going to be it's going to be a struggle for them to watch them get closer and closer to death. And with that, you can have something known as caregiver burnout, which is basically they're mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally exhausted, and they just don't have the capabilities to keep on taking care of that patient. So respite care is something that we do to kind of remedy that. And essentially what we do is that we send the patient to some sort of facility for 5 days maximum, 3 to 5 days, to give that patient's family member, whether it's their spouse, their child, whoever is in their family unit taking care of them, to try to allow them that time to recuperate, recover, and try to just get a little bit of a break, because it is a lot to take someone in those dying stages. So that's respite care. The third level of care is generalized inpatient. I'm just going to keep on saying that it's GIP, which is how we say it in the hospital. And GIP is inpatient palliative care, specifically for someone that's requiring a lot of frequent symptom management, whether it's pain, shortness of breath, nausea, vomiting, agitation, delirium. And what we say is that if they're at home, we send them to the hospital if we can't manage those symptoms with that comfort care at home comfortably. And we send them there specifically with the intent to alleviate these symptoms. And then once those symptoms are alleviated, we send them back. Usually whenever we hospitalize someone, when we're not thinking about the hospice sense, we're sending them there to try to get some sort of service or treatment that they can't do at home. However, when someone is on hospice, if they go and get admitted to the hospital without GIP, then they have to be revoked and not kicked off, but they are discharged from hospice because they are being completely covered and paid for by Medicare specifically for hospice services. So you can't do an inpatient hospitalization stay and get paid for hospice. They would have to leave hospice to get covered for any treatment that they need. So usually what we're thinking about with GIP, we send them to the hospital with that's a hospital that's actually partnered with the hospice agency, and they are there, we treat their symptoms, and then once those symptoms are alleviated, we send them back home. And if those symptoms can't be alleviated, then we allow them to naturally pass in the hospital. So that's GIP, which is what we're going to be talking about specifically in our lectures today. And then the last one, which is something I don't really see too much, and I haven't really seen that much during our fellowship, is continuous care. And basically, continuous care is everything that we would do in GIP. However, some patients say that no matter how uncontrolled my symptoms get, I do not want to go back to the hospital. So we basically do everything that we would do in GIP in the hospital at home. And usually there's a couple of requirements for that. You have to have a minimum of 8 hours of nursing support and requirements to be able to do it at home. If you have like 3-4 hours, it's not enough to really say that you qualify for continuous care. And you say, okay, this patient is requiring frequent symptom control, whether pain, agitation, shortness of breath, whatever, for 8 hours in the day. And because of that, we think that they qualify for continuous care because they do not want to go to the hospital. So we try to gear our treatment, whether it's using MACI catheters or continuous medications, to try to alleviate their symptoms at home to allow them to pass naturally and die naturally. So those are the 4 different levels of care. If you guys have a patient in hospice, that's kind of how it works. And if you're a family member watching that has someone that may be going into hospice or is in the hospice, that's kind of how we think about things for the 4 different levels of hospice. There's different ways that they're all reimbursed. Usually if someone is continuous care or GIP, then that's something that gets the highest reimbursement for the hospice agency to be able to cover all those frequent medications needed to keep someone comfortable in those end stages of life.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like, even when they say when you start something new or for kind of just like work on, just to kind of keep a creative spark, but also like...
It can happen, but I can be patient right now. Yes? Yeah. I got 10 to 8 p.m. I was listening to the lectures and
Hey, Margaret.
Heartbroken, her coping, and generally what she was done in the past. Best case scenario that we tell our patients, because it's a couple of years ago, the clinical manual has kind of an adamant that
Did you guys use this on any level? Okay.
Lectures all done for today. We had some amazing lectures today, and especially that last lecture, we talked about managing patients with opioid use disorder with their methadone and buprenorphine and how to actually manage it for pain, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Honestly, I feel like we're having the best lectures at the end of the year. We actually are going to try to give feedback to our program to try to have some of these lectures at the beginning of the year, because I feel like if I had some of this information at the beginning of the year, my experience probably would have been a little bit better, because I felt like I just felt very uncomfortable managing patients with opioid use disorder. And I did get a little bit of experience in residency, but not that much. So that's going to be definitely a big point of improvement that the program can probably do. Okay, so we are closing up the day today. I got a package in the mail right now, and I'm really excited. I don't know why I'm acting like I don't know what's in it, but I actually work out a lot, and I try to get in at least 150 to 200 grams of protein every time I work out, or just generally every single day. And I really enjoy this Dynamatized protein shake, and I have been getting it for years now. I used to get it in the powder version, and I think I even probably still have some in my, I still have some in my drawer, but I just love using the actual pre-made shakes. The only thing is that they kind of go by really quickly, and kind of with the Dynamatized, it seems like they last a little bit longer. So I've been getting these for some time now, the Cocoa Pebble flavor, obviously, and it is amazing. So if you guys work out, definitely try to get this flavor. You can see right there, it's super good. But regardless, I am closing out the day today. We went to this pizza shop after, and it was amazing. Ended up actually getting this to-go meal of this calzone. Last time we went there, like months ago, after our last fellow dinner, and I saw the calzone. I was like, that looks amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for you guys so you guys can see it. There it is. I am so ready to eat that. Probably not today. Or maybe it might be today, but regardless, I might watch it with this Spurs-Knicks game, and I'm secretly rooting for the Spurs. Don't tell anybody I said that. But anyways, right now it is 67-54. Oh my goodness, the Spurs are killing them. But regardless, I wanted to just end off this video today, just kind of sharing kind of some reflections for today. Today, my co-fellows were just kind of talking about how life is gonna look like after the fact when we finish our fellowship in a few weeks. And majority of us have jobs, and we were just kind of talking about what they kind of look like. There's so many different versions of jobs out there. And if you guys are healthcare professionals, or if you're residents or medical students, there's a lot that goes into searching for a job that I feel like in residency, they don't do like an amazing job trying to prepare you on like what questions to ask, how the interviews are gonna go, how to negotiate. And I learned a little bit of that during my fellow year, and I actually got to ask some questions during my chief year, which was after residency. But there's so many different types of jobs out there for palliative care and hospice. And if you guys want a little bit of a primer of what they kind of look like, you can either be 100%, we call them FTE, which is full-time equivalents. You can be 100% FTE, 80% FTE, which is part-time. Anything that's not 100% is just part-time. But there is 100% inpatient palliative care time, where you're just on the inpatient side, just doing consultation services. There's 100% outpatient. Some of them can be just a general outpatient clinic in a outside sense, where you're just seeing any type of person that needs to see palliative care. Or you can see like how I'm doing it, which is going to be palliative care in a cancer center. So you're specifically only seeing cancer patients. So that's the type of outpatient jobs you can have. You can also have other types of outpatient jobs like home visit programs. We actually do that here at my fellow hospital here. And we have an attending that actually goes to the home of the patients that need primary palliative care. And they just see them. And if there's ever a time in the future where they want to switch to hospice, they just kind of switch it right then and there in that moment. So that's a little bit nice because we actually just get to see the patient in person, which seeing a patient is worth 1,000 words, and being able to actually assess them, talk to them in person, it has more of a connected feel to it. And then the other types of outpatient jobs, I think that's the majority of them. There's like televisits and everything like that, but that's just kind of something that comes with the outpatient jobs in nature. And then there's also hospice jobs. So there's inpatient hospice, there's outpatient hospice. For me, for my job, I'm gonna be doing 3 different types of services. I'm going to be doing inpatient, outpatient at a cancer center, and then also hospice, which is going to be inpatient and outpatient. And the reason why I did that is because for me, I kind of like having my hand in multiple different hats. Is the reason why I'm actually keeping my internal medicine license active and doing those admitting shifts. And I just feel like it makes me a really well-rounded doctor to be able to have multiple different specialties and understandings of how things in the medical system work, and end of life adding on top of that as well. And I feel that for me, coming out of fellowship specifically, I am in the fellowship and I'm doing everything. And I feel like if I were to do every single part of palliative care, we being outpatient, inpatient, and hospice, that now is the time to do it because I'm close enough to my training where I'm doing everything. I'd rather do that as opposed to just doing 100% outpatient or 100% inpatient or 100% hospice for like years on end and be like, oh, I kind of missed those other ones. Let me try to go back and then come back rusty. So that's the reason why, and the reason I actually chose to do my job structure like this. And this morning I had a little bit of clarification, and we're going to have repeat following meetings to kind of iron out the details of how my clinic schedule will actually look. But I'm looking forward to it. And it's just something that is pretty nice because I have been working so many years as a medical student, as a resident, as a chief, now in this fellow year. And that's like 4, and then including college, 4 years of college, another 4 years of med school, that's 8 years, 3 years of residency, that's 11 years, a year of chief year, that's 12 years, and then a year of fellowship year, that's 13 years. So 13 years since leaving high school to try to achieve this dream of becoming a physician, just fully fledged, have my licenses. It's just nice to kind of see that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's very, very fulfilling. I think the only thing that's causing me a little bit of, not worry, just a little bit of like keeping my antennas up is just preparing for this palliative care board examination that's going to be on November 10th this year. And the reason why is because of the actual preparatory material. It's not as focused and centralized and kind of well regarded in terms of like, in comparison to like when I was doing internal medicine. Like internal medicine was like, we have this, you know, creme de la creme, golden standard, what people use to study for the board examination, which was UWorld. But for palliative care, it's not the same. So I'm kind of, you know, doing a little bit of research, scrounging around to see, okay, what is like the best study resource? Next week, me and the other fellows are going to be doing this intensive course review that's going to span from Wednesday to Saturday. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's 4 days of intensive review, all for the board examination. So I'm going to be taking that very, very seriously. I'm probably not going to vlog next week because of that. But regardless, it's going to be, I'm going to take it very seriously because one, it was really expensive. And then two, I don't like the idea of having to retake licensing exam. One, they're very expensive, and then one, they're just very stressful to prepare for. And then three, I'm gonna be in a full-time attending job, so when am I gonna find the time to actually, you know, study for that while I'm learning a new job and onboarding and getting to a new place? So that is just some of the things I've been reflecting on today. Very fulfilling day to day. We learned a lot of very interesting things at our lectures today, being the generalized inpatient care that we talked about earlier, talking about psychosocial care of patients and talking about like sexual dysfunction and spiritual and social pain, and just so many things that just make you think like, wow, like this is a very comprehensive patient, not just talking about pain and, you know, other physical symptoms. There's a lot of things that make a person a person. And then lastly, talking about that opioid use disorder and how to manage them when they're in pain. So I learned a lot of new things. I made a lot of Anki cards, and one of the things that I wanted to share, if you guys are residents or just people in the medical field in general, for people with opioid use disorder, if you are on a buprenorphine patch or buprenorphine like sublingual tablet, which is a partial mu agonist, there is a certain amount that you can cap it out at where you should leave some room so you can add extra opioids on top of that. If they come in, say like for like a fractured like bone, or if you get in a car accident, and the max of that where you don't really want to go above that is 16 milligrams per day. And then that leaves more space for room for you to use like IV Dilaudid or IV fentanyl to try to make up for that pain coverage. And that was just something that I thought was like really cool, and like it's nice to kind of learn things from other specialties because we all kind of manage the same patients, but we all have different views and different lenses in how we do it. So really, really cool stuff. I'm gonna go through his lectures. He actually gave me a slide, so I'm gonna turn a lot of his other slides into actual Anki cards for me to keep on studying, and then just make that a normal thing with spaced repetition. But yeah, really good day. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Comment down below what you learned from this video, and also drop a like if you haven't already. Looking forward to see you guys soon. Peace. Have a nice day. Subscribe.